hunter thinks its prey vanquished. But what it finds are not the spoils of victory, but discarded armor shed like a husk. And when the beast finds its next target, it doesn't think twice about leaving its old shell behind. It finds new armor to don, its blades as deadly as ever. Those who oppose it have no choice but to atone with their lives.
What's good, everyone? It's your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself, and today, guys, we're going to talk about Shogun Ceanataur. Now, Shogun Ceanataur is another old school monster. He got his debut back in the old grandpappy days of Monster Hunter, right there with Daimyo Hermitaur. They're actually, I guess, what do you call it? Like not like brothers. Well, I guess you call it like brothers, but you can kind of see the similarities between the two, the disparity. One is Daimyo, one is Shogun. If you go back in like feudal Japan era, Edo period, and so on, I'm pretty sure most of you guys know more about this than I do. But you have Shoguns and you have Daimyos. One is like the big boss of something, the other is the boss of something else. But essentially, these guys, as far as this game is concerned, one is like the shield, and the other is the sword. The sword being the Shogun, the shield being the Daimyo Hermitaur. Daimyo Hermitaur, he fights using his claws, and he can also protect himself with his claws, shielding his entire body, and he uses it as a counter, whereas Shogun Ceanataur is all about slashing and slicing and cutting you up. So let's talk about what he can do with the slicing and the slashing and so on. He gives you bleed, and if I'm not mistaken, please quote me if I'm wrong, but I think as far as Rise goes, this is the very first monster to give you bleed. I can't remember if base Rise gave us bleed. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't really hold any true memory to base Rise. I wasn't a huge fan of the game, so we're just gonna move on from there. Anyway, so what bleed is, if you get afflicted with bleed, you yourself will be in a very, 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 very bad spot. You kind of want to get rid of it at all costs. But fighting Shogun Ceanataur, one thing I've learned by fighting him multiple times over is that I feel like the AI knows when you're bled and when you're trying to run away to help yourself, because that's when he comes in with the good stuff. He already has a lot of different attacks that actually have great reach. Like, he'll reach out and get you, kind of thing, you know what I mean? Or when you're running away, he will come to you, hand outstretched, saying, you just wait till I get over there, I'm gonna hit you with the ooh-wee. And he does. He hits pretty hard, and any one of his attacks can give you bleed. So you could be bled, you can restore your bleed blight, and then immediately get hit again and then get bled. It's kind of nuts because he has a couple attacks that hit multiple times, multi-hitting attacks, if you will, and each time one of these actually take a hit on you, it counts as an attempt for bleed. So it can get pretty wonky. So remember what I said about him really trying to rush you down when you're away from him. He does not like to not be up in your face, okay? He loves being directly in your face. And the thing is, if he's not in your face, he has a way to make that gap close a lot easier. Remember how Daimyo Hermitaur had this spread your arms wide, give you a hug kind of attack? Ceanataur has the same thing. Thing is though, he will come at you arms outstretched, whereas Daimyo, he'll just have his arms outstretched and then try to hug you real quick. Ceanataur, he's the guy who sees you from across the street talking about, where's my hug? Okay, he's that guy. He's like, where's my hug? Where's my hug? And his hug sucks. You don't want that hug. It hurts a lot. So, long story short, not necessarily a long story short, still technically long story short, we have more to go on, but I want to kind of wrap this up really briefly. Ceanataur, he loves to stay close to you. Every time he hits you, he has a chance to give you bleed blight. Bleed blight is a terrible ailment. You want to get rid of it by all costs. So you can do a couple of things. You can actually crouch down for a few seconds and it's gone, or you can eat a sushi fish. I recommend the sushi fish. The quest give you sushi fish in the box. It's what I use as well. And if you take the sushi fish, you actually heal yourself with the bleed blight and you restore health on top of that. So the health that he probably caused to go away by slapping you with the sharp claws can be restored with the sushi fish. So I recommend using that. Outside of that, he's similar to Daimyo Hermitaur. He has a digging attack. He has a pinning attack. Does he have a pinning attack? I'm pretty sure he still has that pinning attack, the one where he sharpens both of his claws and then jumps at you with both of them down. I've never been hit with it in this game yet, but I'm pretty sure he still has it. And if not, then hey, whatever you do, don't get hit with the sharpie claws slappy attack. You'll see it in here. It's kind of hard to like miss, because when you see it, you're like, oh, that's something for real. But he does dig. Like I said, he'll dig, he'll go underground, he'll try and like snatch you up, much like how Daimyo Hermitaur has the dig where he kind of follows you, tracks your movements. Shogun is the same way. You will probably get duffed pretty easily if you aren't wary of your place between you and him. Again, like I said, he likes to stay close. So if you get too far away, depending on the shell that he has on his back, he will close the gap in two different ways. One, if he has the conch shell, he'll just come at you, arm swinging, as he does. But if he has the Gravio shell on his back, you'll see it. I don't think in this particular gameplay, maybe it might be in this gameplay or not, but if he has the Gravio shell, he'll use it to actually spit water at you. So Gravios is a monster who's not in this game, but for those who don't know, Gravios is a monster who's also back, who originated in the way back Grandpappy days of Monster Hunter. But his big thing was he had a beam. I think Black Gravios had the beam, or they may have both had the beam. I can't remember off the top of my head. Again, a Grandpappy old Dave monster. But anyway, the Gravios shell, akin to the Daimyo Hermitaur Monoblow shell, has certain properties. The Monoblow shell gave a really strong charging attack, because that's what Monoblow does. It charged with his horn. And the Gravio shell, mind you, it did have a fire beam, but in this case it has a water beam. So he will use the beam in a couple of ways. He'll shoot the beam straight, he'll swing the beam round and round, he'll do like a circular motion with the beam. He'll use it in a couple of ways to like hit you even when you're far away. So I wouldn't necessarily call it zoning, but he's still coming out to reach for you. So if you try to zone, try to stay away, like if you're a gunner of some sort, you may become privy or victim to this particular thing a couple of times over. Now, if you're wondering, okay, Dak, I'm fighting him and he doesn't have the Gravio shell, he has the conch shell. What are you talking about? How do I get to the Gravio shell? Well, for one, you don't kind of want to get to the Gravio shell, but if, let's say you want to get to the Gravio shell, I'll tell you. You have to break his shell. Remember, Dime, I'm going to keep bringing it up. Do you remember? You hear me say that a lot. But when you fight Daimyo Hermitaur, you break his shell, right? One, two breaks, and you break it for real. But with the Shogun Ceanataur, you break the shell. You actually show his most vulnerable part of his body, which is like this weird lump thing on his back. I don't know what it's called. I'm sure someone who knows crustaceans will know what I'm talking about. But if you break his shell, it leaves this huge knobbly thing exposed. You'll see it in the video. That is his big weak spot. Slap that, do massive damage to it, you're going to be in great hands. But once that is broken, he acts buck wild for a minute, then he'll dig back underground, then come back up with a new shell. Now, how you know when he's going to dig for the new shell is very simple. If he's digging for the new shell, no matter how mad he is, no matter how docile he is, he'll go straight down and straight back up. New shell. But if he digs and does other things, that means he's still attacking. So, if you break the conch shell, he digs down and comes back up, he'll come up with the Gravio shell. Or if you break the Gravio shell, he'll dig down, come back up with the conch shell. I'm pretty sure it's on a rotation like that. So it's not like random chance, I'm thinking, because so far every time I've broken it, it reverts from one to the other. It's not like you break the conch shell, comes down and comes back with another conch shell. I've not seen him do that to me personally, so I'm not saying it's not a possibility. But so far, every time I broke the shell, depending on whatever shell I broke, he just reverted to the opposite shell. So if you actually want to have an easier time fighting Shogun Ceanataur, so that way if you do like to play a little far back from him, granted the far back play, I prefer him with the conch shell, because yeah, he can just run out and come and reach you or whatever, but the thing is, it's easier to run away from him than to like run away from a beam. Beams are usually instantaneous, they cover the entirety of the map, whereas him running out to try and swipe at you, you can just dodge roll it, you know what I mean? I dodge roll it like dozens of times this video alone. So that's that. But outside of that, if you want to do the damage to actually slap my man real nice and tight, because I certainly was not doing a lot of slapping in this particular video because I was getting bodied, bring yourself some lightning based weaponry. At this point, again, Kezu is still pretty solid. Tobi Kadachi is also available. So just bring some lightning weapons and you'll do a lot of extra elemental damage to his body. Of course, his head is the biggest weak spot outside of the big lumpy thing on his back once you get that exposed. That's the word. Blah. But an easy way to actually help get that exposed is using Wyvern Riding. That's what I used. In this particular gameplay, I used Wyvern Riding, the Tobi Kadachi himself, to actually break the conch shell on his back, so that way it exposes his big lumpy thing, and I was able to do it smack for large damage. So if you want to break the shell, I recommend Wyvern Riding. When you fight him naturally, I believe you get Tobi Kadachi and Almudron. Almudron is really good at breaking it. Tobi Kadachi is pretty solid breaking it too, and also with Tobi Kadachi you get the Thunder Blight, so you can get a free knockout. So that's actually really useful. So with all that said, that is Shogun Ceanataur in a nutshell. I'll talk about the gear, because the one thing I like about Shogun Ceanataur is that no matter what, in every game he's in, he always has really good gear. Okay, so now we have the gear. So the gear is pretty smacking. The armor gives crit I7, peak performance 3, grinder S3, marathon runner 3, pierce up 3, and handicraft 3. A whole lot of 3s in here. Now, crit I is what it sounds like. You get 40 actual affinity on top of whatever you already have. Peak performance, you get 20 attack whenever your health is at full. So if you're really good at not getting hit, you're gonna have 20 more attack for free. Basically attack up large. And grinder S, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't really know what this ability does. I've used it a couple of times, and I didn't really notice anything. Maybe it's like an attack buff. So maybe like when your sharpness is maxed out, after you sharpen it, and it restores more than 2 levels or whatever, you get an attack buff on top of it. Maybe that's the thing. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't check to see if that was actually a thing. Now I'm saying it out loud because I do all these things in one take. That very well could have been the case. So essentially how it works anyway is, let's say you have white sharpness and then you slap a monster to you all the way down to green sharpness. Well, if you sharpen your weapon, you get your sharpness back, and then you get a buff of some sort. So I'm guessing it's attack or whatever. But moving on, marathon runner, run forever, so on and so forth. The rest of the skills don't necessarily matter. But the one thing there's always good to note about the Ceanataur is that he's always an affinity based monster. His weapons are always really good. They all come with natural white sharpness, at least in this game for sure. They all come with natural white sharpness. You're looking at attack range between anywhere between 290 to 270, that kind of range. So you can get a lot out of this guy, and it's not a little bit of white sharpness. You get quite a lot of white sharpness, and you get handicraft 3, so you can get even more sharpness. So as far as this goes, as this weapon stands right now, it's not like, I don't know, is it better than Narg at the time of speaking? It may be, but currently you can use it as like a pseudo Narg type of thing, because you get lots of crit, and I think they give like 20 affinity off the top on most of his weapons. So that's actually really useful as well. So it's a crit based kind of thing. A lot of people, myself included, will be using his weapons, if not his armor, for a good long while, but I'll be at least using his weapons for a while, because they do have natural white sharpness. It's a lot of white sharpness, and if you use the armor, so you do get quite a bit of into affinity, so it's actually quite helpful in that regard. So all in all, I believe his gear to be fairly good. I would recommend running some of it, if any. Yeah, Ceanataur. Nothing like mind-blowing. I know I'll talk about how it could be worked or used with multiple different weapon types. When it's a crit-based kind of thing, you can use it with a lot of things as well. So anything you can get your head around, you can use it for, you know, whatever weapon set. You would just have to attach certain abilities to it, or skills rather. Like if you're landing, gonna ring, you know, some guard. If you're using greatsword or so on, might use focus or stuff like that. But for the most part, all the skills that's on there work really well with other skills that you would probably use if you're, let's say, I don't know, using whatever weapon you want to use. So very versatile set, incredibly decent armor set. Weapons give natural white. What more can you ask for? So to recap, Shogun Ceanataur is an old days monster who is weak to that of thunder element. If you're going to do the most damage, you can hit him in the face. Much like any other monster you fight in this game, hit him in the face. But if you want to do his true weak spot, if you break the conch shell on his back or the gravial skull on his back, it reveals this knobbly thing, and you can attack that for large damage as well. Outside of that, he is one of the few, if not the only monster I've seen to date in this generation, this particular game, Rise, if you will, to give us bleed. Bleed, you don't want to mess with it. If anything, it actually will cause you to die super fast. Don't want to touch it at all. So you want to either eat A, sushi fish, B, well done steak, a sort of meat, if you will, or you can crouch for a couple of seconds and you'll be cleared of it. Outside of that, he is a pretty hardy monster to fight. Not hardy, but more so like aggressive kind of monster to fight. He will come at you in a multitude of ways. He will swing at you from afar. He'll swing at you up close. He'll open his arms really wide to give you a hug, but you don't want that hug. Remember to actually don't accept the hug from that guy from across the street. Don't do it. He has a whole bunch of attacks. He has attacks that hook. He has attacks that go overheads. A lot of his claws are very potent attacks, so just really watch out for them and try not to get hit too many times, because again, you'll get with the bleed if you get hit with too many of his claw attacks. He does have a dig attack, so a dig under the ground and try to come up and attack you that way. Very akin to that of the Diamond Hermitaur. He has a lot of abilities and skills and move sets that are akin to that of the Diamond Hermitaur. But unlike the Diamond Hermitaur though, he is very susceptible to like getting knocked over, and once he gets knocked over, it's free damage for you all day. I mean, I've knocked this thing over like quite a few times. I didn't really get a large amount of chances to knock over Diamond Hermitaur. Maybe it's just my particular playstyle, but it's something that I'm noticing. Outside of that, Gravial Skull, it shoots water. You don't want to deal with that, so you can either A, break the skull so that way you can go back to the conch shell so he doesn't breathe water, or B, stay up close so that way you don't have to worry about him spewing the water beam at you and attacking from afar. Same goes for when he's using the conch shell and he's using his long sweeping attacks to really come at you when you're trying to play a long distance game. All that being said, he's a very interesting monster, not too difficult from that of the Diamond Hermitaur. It may take a couple of seconds to readjust to how he actually attacks. He's a lot more aggressive than Diamond Hermitaur. He doesn't usually shield his body at all. He's usually all-out attack at you. So you might want to adjust your playstyle if you're a little bit more defensive like myself, or if you're really offensive, just beat him with more offense. I try to go really offense with the Great Sword, and I carded twice for it. And I have to play a little bit defensive with a lot more foresight in mind, so that way I can come out on top. But with that being said, everyone, it's been your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself. Thanks so much for watching this video. This has been Shogun Ceanataur. I don't know who the next monster is. I actually don't know who the next monster is, so I don't know when it's going to come out. So expect another one before the end of this week is out. But with that being said, it's been your boy. Take care.